What if we could all go to the woods to live deliberately?
My name is Tracy Fullerton. I'm the designer and director of Walden, a Game. I started working on Walden, a Game more than 10 years ago. I was inspired by a trip that I took to the pond while rereading the book. I was there on a, sort of a quiet, rainy day, and there was no one at the pond. I had it to myself, and I remember I was reading, sitting and reading along the edge of the pond, and I was thinking how amazing it would be if everyone had a chance to live Thoreau's experiment. In 2007, I had just finished working on the exhibit version of The Night Journey, and I thought that I had a great team, and I had this idea that had been bugging me, for a number of years to try and make this virtual version of Walden. And so I went out and I bought everyone on the team copies of the book, and we started reading and underlining and, really thinking about the themes, kind of breaking it down and thinking, what about this book could make a interesting game? What is it what is it about this experiment that Thoreau set for himself that might actually make a playable experience?
My name is Todd Furmansky, and I'm the lead programmer on Walden, a Game. I've been working on Walden, a Game for the better part of a decade now, and I love doing experimental work in digital media and games in particular, and so the idea of turning a piece of literature like Thoreau's Walden into an interactive work seems a wonderfully crazy idea to me. Recreating Walden Pond in a way that can communicate the beauty and vitality of the space was an incredible challenge, especially on a small but very motivated team. It ends up being, we've recreated about a square mile of the pond and the surrounding area. You can walk around the pond, and we've recreated a section of Concord to go into as well. In order to really have the themes of Walden come across, one of the prerequisites was we had to make the space beautiful. We have thousands of trees, and each tree is individual in the sense that when you examine a tree, be it in spring, summer, or in the dead of winter, you find something that Thoreau's written about it. So we have dozens of trees, dozens of kinds of plant life, many kinds of plants and animals that you can stumble across, and Thoreau has written something about all of them.
My name is Logan Verhoof, and I worked as technical designer on Walden. So part of making Walden work technologically was this big challenge of having tens of thousands of trees in this tiny area. And if you walk around the game, you definitely feel it. It feels like a forest. It feels like you can look across the pond and see all these trees, and you can walk over there, and they're the exact same trees you saw in the distance. There's no faking it. There's no mussing it about. There's also a lot of design challenges, resource distribution in an open world game is very different from a linear game, of course, where this sort of game like Walden, you can be anywhere in this entire world at any given point in time with a completely different set of needs or different sort of state, and our resource distribution needs to respond to that, not necessarily support it all the time, but be interesting in some way. And early on, I remember drawing a lot of maps of resource distribution throughout the world. Like, okay, berries here, and different seasons would have different types of plants available, and that was really fun design work for me.
So my name is George Luif. I'm a third-year interactive media MFA student, and I work on Walden as a PlayStation programmer. I work right next to the lead artist of Walden and the lead programmer of Walden, so I'm in a good spot. I can basically just ask things. Because I'm a student, I also I'm also learning always and exchanging knowledge with them. I mean, so one of the opportunities I got while working on Walden was porting the game to PlayStation, and pretty much learning how to go through that process and learning how to take a PC Mac game and all the steps required to port it to PlayStation. Yeah, we got to show the game at PlayStation Experience. It was interesting because the people that went to PlayStation Experience were gamers. They were, I think, maybe not the target audience of the game, but it was interesting to kind of see them go. First, they were like really skeptical, but then, okay, I think I'm ready to, accept this different type of game.
My name is Lukas Peterson. I was the lead artist on Walden. I've been working on Walden for at least 7 years. Well, initially, Walden was going to be set on paths. When we switched to Unity, we decided that we had the power to open the entire pond up for exploration. And that really piqued my interest in being able to really sculpt everything, every detail, every tree placement was kind of under my control, and it felt like it was a great opportunity to make a really natural environment and bring it to life by mimicking nature as closely as I could. A lot of the themes and the qualities from paintings that we'd seen through the Hudson River School that we really wanted to pull into Walden, our lighting, our fog, the entire design of the pond, the natural shape of the pond really lends itself to depth because it's so flat. We can see across the pond from almost anywhere in the game. Even though Walden Pond is not a massive lake, it's still can feel grandiose when it's got the colors from top to bottom that could resemble something like some of our inspirations from the Hudson River School.
Hi, I'm Michael Sweet, and I'm the composer and audio designer for Walden. So remarkably, Tracy's dream was to make this game about Walden, and Tracy and I have been working for a long time, and coincidentally, I live only about 3 miles away from Walden Pond. So what was really awesome for me was that I was able to do location recording. So I was going out with my little portable recording and recording birds and insects and placing them in the game. And we tried to be as accurate as possible. So we talked to bird experts, for instance, and the kinds of birds that were in the time of Thoreau and the kinds of birds that he would be hearing. And we also took the world pretty seriously. When you go through a day, there are more birds, say, at dawn and in the evening, just kind of to mimic and be as realistic as we can to portray the type of environment that Thoreau would have heard. So the composition of the music is based on several different ideas. There's kind of a rhythm to daily life that there is almost a repetition that flows throughout our life, almost like a heartbeat, right? And so I fused some of those ideas into the score, so we have these heartbeat type elements fused within the music that is kind of in a style of minimalism, but then we also grow it to be more emotional or more contemplative, to mimic some of the feelings that he might be having in the world as he explores, as the character sort of moves around and discovers new places in the world or places of introspection where they're kind of looking inside and things like that.
We wanted to include not only the sort of this core game simulation and not only this large open dynamic world, but also these narrative threads that really explore who Thoreau was and why he went to the woods, because I think it helps us to understand the text itself when we understand the writer and some of the driving forces in his life that made him decide to set out on this experiment. And so I think in the case of the game, what we're hoping to do is to point you towards a notion of simplicity, a notion of deliberateness, of making choices about how you spend your time in the game and in your life, and taking away from the game perhaps an awareness that we need not fill our to-do lists, with so many things and then, feel like a failure if we don't accomplish them. Sometimes it's best not to do everything on your to-do list. Sometimes it's best to choose wisely amongst those things.